All right, welcome everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Missed the meeting, June 3rd. Should start off, oh geez, look at my hair. Reflecting in that light.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. We have an agenda item to raise, as soon as I can. Just read that out through this. So we'll just start with the first agenda item, which is to add an agenda to 8:30. Dave sent around a memo at the end of the day yesterday, explaining urgent need to add something before the next DRB meeting. It looks like we do have a quorum with 4 of us present, so we can all, if I can get a motion to add the agenda, then we can go forward with that.
I'll move to add the Fontaine subdivision review to today's agenda.
Thanks.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you, Reed and Laura. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
And
Aye.
then if you, thank you, Lynn. Great, so that is added to the agenda. We'll cover it at 8:30.
30, yeah, okay, great, thank you all for accommodating that last minute request, and
Yeah,
my
no
apologies again.
Okay, then before we get to the minutes from the last meeting, I just wanted to flag that it looks like we're not gonna have a quorum for the 14th. I'm gonna be out, and I believe Dave is out, so is Kim. So
Well, you could still have a quorum, potentially,
potentially, if Eric is here.
17th,
the 17th, June 17th.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we do have, let's see where we are at the end of the meeting, but I think we do have a lot of things that we're working on that could be. Those who are around could
Yeah.
just kind of work on subcommittee activities that date.
yeah,
Is another option to keep things flowing.
Okay.
it's a good idea.
Let's see if Eric is here, and then if we can confirm, but if you guys wanna do that, then you can also choose to have a non sort of quorum meeting, and
No work meeting,
yeah, yeah,
non-decision making meeting.
exactly. Okay, great, so then we'll move to the minutes. I was not here, so I reviewed them for awareness.
So there's a lot that was discussed last, I was trying my best to fit this on 2 pages,
Yeah.
and then I just gave up.
It's like a lot.
Went through and abbreviated as much as I could. But yeah, a lot of information packed in on this one.
I didn't have any comments on the minutes.
yeah, I didn't either. Me either.
I'll move approval of the minutes as drafted.
Thank you, Reed.
Second,
Laura seconds. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
I,
Lynn is a yes, I abstain. Excellent. I don't know.
I feel like you should get 3 points anytime the minutes have no edits. We should have a tally on the wall for David.
Yeah,
3 points, nothing but net.
And lose points at the.
Okay, lots of updates on the.
Okay, yeah, I'll jump in and try to do it quick. So the Marcotte subdivision, which the CC recently reviewed, went to DRB and progressed through DRB review. So the DRB retained review at final plans. So they wanted to see a couple of those things that were discussed in our report, like where the final boundary line is going to be drawn to shrink lots 6, 7, and 8. And some of those other details that were in the report. But what that means, independently of the DRB side, is that this discussion that has come forth about potentially conveying that land through a sale to the town of Williston is something that the Conservation Commission should return to potentially soon. And talk a little bit more about what that could mean for the town, and in particular, do you want to create a memo to send to the select board in support of ERF funding going to that project? So I wanted to kind of flag that for everyone. I didn't think there was necessarily time to have a deep discussion of it. There will be a negotiation process with the family to converge on what a price of sale would be. And that's something that we can also potentially talk about in executive session. While the conversation about conserving that land, of course, is in the public domain, the negotiations for the real estate transaction should stay in executive session. Reed?
Do we have, I don't wanna get into discussing too much, but have we done any thought about potential partners if we were to do something? Cause
Yeah, that's
the
it.
matching fund is always a big deal for us with.
Yeah.
ERF.
It's still, that's a major project item on my to-do list, is just continue to expand that research and actually start pulling in potential
Yeah.
partners.
Is that something that you think is appropriate to do some of the outreach? Even before we do negotiations, so we know what might be available to us?
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know
so,
what the
yeah.
sequencing would be like, so it's been a while.
Yeah, totally. So we are trying to schedule a meeting with the family to be sort of an informal. Like let's set the tone and let's look at kind of what's been proposed and what's on the table right now. See if there are, just make sure we're all on the same page about like the town's concerns, things that were raised by the Conservation Commission, such as the fact that the trail system isn't going to be fully intact because of the subdivision. So the town will have to do some investigations. They'll have to figure out how to reconnect that trail system. We're going to have to put in an access point
Parking.
and solve that. So
Have
So-
a vision for what we're gonna do.
yeah, so we have to, I think the first step is just making sure they understand. Like these are the things that are on the town's radar when thinking about what it means to purchase this land. For this reason of having management control over recreation and making this a public access opportunity.
The question I have is, in executive session, a number was shared with the Conservation Commission about what the assessed value was.
Yes,
Has that been shared with the family?
that has been shared with the family, and the family has presented a counter offer
Yeah,
to of what they would hope to see the sale price as
Yeah.
and why they think that's justified. So that's kind of where I think we need to start with. Okay, we have a number, yes, from an independent assessment. You presented another number for these reasons.
that's how negotiations go.
Yeah,
So we start, and that's
right,
where we're
yeah.
at.
But
That's kind of, we don't need to go any further.
Yeah, exactly.
We can wait for executive session, but that is what I was asking was. Where in that negotiation process are we? How much do we know? And, it sounds like we can't talk about it any further without actually using those numbers. And
right,
putting a memo together for the select board.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think, given that the Conservation Commission probably won't have a meeting in the second half of June, this could be something for the first meeting in July.
Yeah.
It'll be July 1, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1:15.
Okay,
So
so
we'll get to the schedule later.
yeah, moving on to the quick. Well, any other questions on that? We're doing fine on that.
No, that's good update. And, I think, so we'll just tentatively put that on in the back of our minds as an executive session on July 1st or July 15th, depending.
Yes.
Availability.
Oh, and I'm just looking, I'm glad I looked at my notes. So the other thing that I wanted to put on your radar is I think it would be a good idea to organize a site visit.
Yes. Yeah,
The
for sure.
John Marcotte has invited me out to see it several times. I haven't. So I think by extension, I think it makes sense to propose that the Conservation Commission go out there and take a look at land and walk the existing trail, or at least a portion of it. So I'm gonna reach out to John Marcotte to propose that. If that seems
Yeah.
to make sense to all of you.
Yeah.
And then do some scheduling, yeah.
Yeah, get the authentic experience and get lost and come out on Caboose Lane.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, is it still really wet back there right now?
We got an inch of rain a couple of days.
I'm sure that
Yeah.
parts of it are, because I think, you know, as we saw in the habitat assessment, that they're wetland areas,
Yeah,
but I think the access out there is high and dry, the logging road, and I would imagine that the main trails are drying out.
okay.
At least enough to walk on, Brennan.
Would we have that soon? I'm just looking at my schedule and I'm out the 15th and the week of the 22nd, so both of those weeks I'm not around, but I'd like to be on that site visit.
Yeah, I think it would probably be hard to schedule it in June.
Okay.
So probably looking
July would be a
Yeah.
drier time of year generally.
Yeah.
speaking.
post 4th of July,
Okay,
summer, great. It would be my guess.
early then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want it to leave off.
Right.
Or gosh, no.
Well, yeah, we'll see what people are available, I think.
Okay, great.
Okay, so second thing, small, but has been on my list to have a quick connection on for a while, which is the bios page for the Conservation Commission. So as we've had new member come in and out, it's just occurred to me that there's kind of an inconsistent treatment here around bios. Some people have them, some people don't. And I think the Conservation Commission should make a decision whether you want to commit to it or not, so that we can be consistent moving forward.
I know I don't have one and I don't need one, so but I don't wanna take your bios away from you.
No, I think, but the only thing I would say is, some people know people by name and some people know people by face. It might not be a bad
Right.
idea to have a photo and a name for each person, because then when you see somebody around town, you're like, oh, that's who's on the. Just a suggestion.
We can also, bump it for a later conversation, but I was like, oh, I have to say this because it's been on like 4 different meetings
Yeah.
that gone by where I've been like, oh, I'm gonna ask about the bios, I'm gonna ask about the bios.
And as somebody who is a read and there are multiple reads involved in town government stuff.
Mhm.
I can't be like, which read are you?
I don't think it's a problem to have bios. I mean, yeah, it is interesting information, kind of background, and you could understanding of who these people are. It is
They're nice.
an exception from the rest of the committees or town committees. They don't seem to have bios.
Yeah,
But-
that's the only thing I go to. If that was the standard practice, then. We're not that exceptional.
Kim has one.
Yeah,
I really like the pictures as Reed.
Do you like the pictures?
okay,
Is that what other people have?
I was imagining a thumbnail plus your name and then no link to go anywhere when you click on it. Would be. Like,
Those are my
very
favorite
simple.
days.
So on the front page, you would see like a little thumbnail. Image of the person and their name, and that's it.
Yeah,
Is what I was imagining. I mean, I love bios, but it's a pain to maintain.
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
true, mine's old,
And like mine's already out of date. I already saw something. I was like, that's not accurate anyways.
right,
So I think it might be best if you say it's simple, we set it up once and it's done.
yeah, that's true.
Okay, all right, great.
yeah,
I agree.
Thumbnail.
I think it's a good middle ground.
Okay, great.
Okay, good.
pictures are
Love it.
fun. I mean, I have a headshot I can send you.
It helps also like people come in for a review, right? Like
Right, they
an
come-
applicant, they're like, okay, I already know who it is. When I walk
Yeah.
in the room, I kind of know, okay, that's David, he's chair. and
All right.
Things like that.
50 feet,
Okay.
yeah.
That sounds great, middle ground. All right, so next item is, this was just before our last meeting, but there wasn't really time to talk about it. I got a report from the community that somebody was out on Sucker Brook and they passed 2 different groups of people walking home with armful of trillions.
Oh, no,
Some of which were cut flowers and some of which were dug up. So obviously, something collecting wild plants on a large scale is, most people, I think it wouldn't be hard to say that that's not how you envision proper stewardship of our natural conservation areas. You know, you tragedy of the commons. We see this thing with ramps harvesting, that kind of stuff, where everybody takes a few, and you can lose a whole population of many of these species that can take years to get large. On the other hand, foraging is listed in many of these management plans as, you know, allowed uses. And I was glancing through Sucker Brook. I didn't see anything explicitly about like you can't forage or things like that. Now, this is a slightly different case because people are digging up plants. So sort of wanted to do two things.
Do we know what their
Bring it
intent
to
was,
your.
or was it just an activity that's reported?
It was just an activity that's reported. They said, you know, they passed these people coming home with these plants, and
I'm glad it's already reported.
yeah,
That's a good
didn't get any
sign,
more
yeah.
information. So first thing is just report that to you, so you're aware as a conservation commission this is happening. We can think a little bit about messaging in response potentially. And the second thing is to think about, you know, does the Conservation Commission want to have a discussion about kind of what is appropriate in terms of harvesting wild plants? You know, if somebody was going to go out to Sucker Brook for their University of Vermont botany class, which asks them to take plant samples and press them and create specimens for the herbarium there, would that be okay? Is there a level that you're thinking about? So there's, on the one hand, you read a report like that, you're like somebody walking home with 25 cut trilliums, and that sounds terrible. And on the other hand, I think there's a conversation to be had about kind of what is appropriate.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I know that when I go out with Sarah from UVM, she always has clippers with her to clip a fern or two to show people.
Yeah.
And I think educational is great.
Yeah. One of the things I think about is, this is not something that we hear frequently.
Mhm.
And while one report of it on its face, like just thinking about that one report, I get all concerned. And then I think, well, if this is the first time that's been reported in 8-9 years that I've been on the Conservation Commission, it's like, it's more of an individual problem and less of a systemic problem. So I wonder whether the right thing to do is just to monitor, and if there's more reports, see if we can address the specific people who are doing
Yeah.
it, rather than sort of trying to fix all of our management plans or something around something that only happens very, very rarely. I
Mm,
don't know.
I think for me, it would be,
For a public service announcement, maybe it's an
Yeah.
opportunity for a public service.
Yeah,
it would be a step too far if this were being used for like a commercial purpose, like decorating a
Yeah.
wedding table, right?
Mhm,
Like
yeah.
if it was someone who was out there and they were, you know, paid to sort of decorate a wedding table with an assortment of wildflowers. And yeah, like that is a bridge too far. Like that's fine if you want to do that in your own backyard, but you can't sort of take from the commons
Yes.
in order to
Mhm.
sort of.
or sell to.
Well, yeah, or sell,
Yeah.
right, to enrich yourself, right?
Yeah,
It's
totally.
if there was a profit motive involved in any way, that would be a clear step too far. But you know, educational purposes, like those kinds of distinctions are made frequently and all the time in terms of like sharing information, you know, and like anyways, yeah,
Yeah, sharing the enjoyment of
yeah.
the land by
Right.
through demonstration or whatever.
So collecting of an individual specimen, you know,
Is
for
it
education.
ever, do we think it's ever okay to dig something up, though?
Well, when you collect for herbarium, you're supposed to get
Roots, too.
roots. Um,
Oh,
So-
I see. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's a good point, right? There is a difference between cutting
Clipping.
a wildflower where the root, the plant stays intact. But maybe its flower is gone, so you're versus digging up roots, in which case that individual is gone.
I mean, if they dig it up at the roots, then it sounds like they want to replant it in their
Right.
own yard.
It's possible.
But a lot of times that's not successful. I mean,
Yeah,
so think of like the lady slippers and things like that. I
What
mean,
would be?
could we say like if you have to get permission to dig something up? I mean, but on the other hand, that sounds like that it's okay to cut, which we also don't really
Won't be perfect.
think.
I guess we're going on the verge of like, what can we actually do here? What is in the realm of like controllability for us?
Right. I mean, this is kind of where I was going initially. I was thinking, oh, but I'll just send out a front porch forum that says like, this is unacceptable. You can't, do any wild harvesting. And then I was like, well, I don't think that's necessarily true. There's quite a bit of gray area, and how do we approach this? So these are really good points that people are raising.
I was just gonna say, I think it would be a good idea to come up with some standard language that can be in our management plans. Then at each time we review them, we can decide, is this a location that we should have this blurb about foraging and or harvesting for scientific educational type purposes. But that, yes, the way we word it would have to be careful, and I think the most important thing, if we were to put something up right now, to me would be to thank somebody for reporting potential
Mhm.
sort of wider spread harvest of native species. And encourage others to be, be on the lookout. We appreciate that report because we can help preserve
Yeah.
species for everyone to enjoy. And if we know when it's maybe not being respected.
Yeah. Okay. This sounds good. I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one other thing. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
just had one thing about the fruiting bodies of fungi, because that seems to be an accepted practice to say, oh, it's the fruiting body, we'll just take it. I usually leave it just because I think it's cool looking and for other people to enjoy, but that's just another part of the conversation.
Right?
Yeah, my thought was if you're thinking about a front porch forum, like I personally don't know that we need to, I mean, certainly if you get a report, thank the person who providing the report. But if you're gonna do a front porch forum, Dave, I would have it be the theme of like leave no trace, right? Is that take only pictures, leave only footprints along those lines? Is that like our parks are treasured by all of us? And that includes harvesting of native plants, that includes digging dirt piles or something, like whatever.
Yeah.
You don't encourage people
Cutting your own trails.
or cutting your own tree for firewood. Like this is not acceptable. Like
Yeah, you can't. Cut a tree.
it's kind of like a reminder is that like as we sort of go back outside at the end of a wet spring and explore Williston's natural places, like take only pictures, leave only footprints. It's kind of like a leave no trace principle. This is not your backyard to harvest trilliums.
You guys, can you promote Eric? Because he might have something to say.
I just saw that.
And
Thank you.
I mean, if we're gonna put something out on Front Porch Forum, shouldn't we be putting it somewhere else? It's not everybody is on Front Porch Forum. I don't think
Yes, definitely.
we should totally rely on that.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. Sorry, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Help.
Sorry, Eric. Kept you in limbo.
Well,
That's all right. No, I can't figure out. Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry, I was a little bit late logging on. I had to be up in my office today.
Okay, Eric, did you want to comment on this topic? Or were you just asking to be promoted?
Well, I was just asking to be let into the meeting, but I think the direction you were headed sounds great to me in terms of both. I think a note reminding folks of those points you were talking about in Front Porch Forum, but also probably something into the Observer would be useful as well.
Sure. If we're already gonna put something out about, to Dave's point, like as we go back outside, the trails will start to dry out. We hope you enjoy them this summer. We get public service announcement about use of public trails. I think that would be a time that you could just slip it in and say, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't necessarily thinking of actively following through on that at this moment.
Yeah, it's okay.
People have to do.
But I do think it is a good idea, and part of why I just wanted to put this on the agenda was to get this conversation
Yeah.
going, because I think the idea of trying to, what I do want to do is try to come up with some standard language. As was suggested that, and maybe I can draft that and bring it to the committee to kind of, or commission to kind of talk about and follow up on. Because we can have some standard language about harvesting, and foraging and fungi foraging, these practices. And how, we can incorporate that into management plans, we can post it on the website, it can be something that we can drop into PSA. It can kind of check all those boxes, once we have them.
The Williston Fire Department has similar kind of guidance on just doing like, campfire versus brush fire. And like campfires, you don't need a permit for, but a brush fire, you do. And, they make little distinctions, so like if you wanted to have language like that, is that like,
Where's the line?
where's the line, right? It's like an individual stem of a wild plant is fine, but a bushel is
Right,
clearly not.
yeah,
and
something along those
sort of
lines, then,
impairs others' ability to enjoy the,
unless it's a rare plant, you could be
in which case,
making it like a finable offense.
like, again, like, go back to the, like, leave no trace, right?
Yeah.
I think that should be the sort of.
Okay.
All right,
Presumed.
Sounds good, all
all
right.
right, for the future.
All right, so we'll move on from time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last items here are just kind of like FYIs. So first is there was a lot that the Conservation Commission was discussing a couple months back on Brown Isle Mountain. It was sold by the Leclerc family. This is the lot that contains the service road that goes up Brown Isle Mountain. That at one time, the Conservation Commission of the town were interested in saying, oh, could that also be a pedestrian path? That parcel was sold privately to a family at the start of this year, I think it was. And this parcel is now up for sale again. The family's plans have changed. They're no longer looking to put a home there and move there. So it is on the market again, which I think is interesting. The Conservation Commission should be aware of. It's at a price point that would be very challenging to.
Just tell us how much.
It's on the market for $8.99
Wow.
for a vacant lot. So that's
Yikes.
that'd be pretty challenging.
Just put a ski area there.
But it's something to be aware of, if
I don't
that
think the snow is consistent enough.
doesn't sell, if that price were to change, or if some kind of crazy grant opportunity were to come up.
Do you know if that is like profit for them? Did they buy it to flip it, or like, I seem to recall that price going for in the like 700, so like, are they just trying to make a quick 100G off of that?
I have no idea. The information that we received was just that they had some changes in their life plans, and I think they had been looking to move there and build a home, and that's no longer feasible. So my sense is that they're trying to recoup their costs and potentially, make a little off the sale, but I don't think it was a flipping kind of situation, but I don't know.
And yeah, I'm just trying to see if it's on Zillow or not. I don't see it.
I think it's on Zillow. I saw it on Zillow.
Okay, yeah, it could just be my settings for some reason. So 800.
We talked about it before, I think the actual parcel itself wasn't super valuable, but access to the access road.
Right.
Right.
There was a potential parking area at the bottom.
Right.
But that, if they're trying to sell it to someone who's gonna live on that property, they probably don't wanna encumber it by having the town have rights to a parking lot along the bottom or something. But I know there's a flat area, which is rare in that kind of.
Right.
Vicinity, so.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, that was just kind of a note that I thought the Conservation Commission should be aware of.
And the entirety of the access road is located on that
The
parcel?
entirety of the access road is located on that parcel, except for
There's like a couple.
a tiny sliver of it, which crosses the Brownell parcel here, which the town has a 8 by 22 pedestrian easement over.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Boy, do we know what kind of revenue that leased access road provides?
We don't. I would imagine that there's something there, because certainly the price per acre on that parcel is more than you would see elsewhere.
Yeah,
So I imagine that there's revenue associated with that. It must be something, but I don't have any information.
yeah, and but it doesn't have, and because you're looking at your official system here, there is no existing land conveyance or right to build currently stipulated. In the same way that, like, say, the 1.5 million Shagbark property does.
Correct, right. There's no pre-existing home permit,
Right,
or so
right.
this, and any proposal to, yeah, we looked at this before, and a proposal to build a home at the bottom in the flat area would be uncontroversial and what is expected with private rights of use to land.
Mhm.
But any proposal to cite the half-acre lot on
Up
this
there.
has to be in conformance with the
Yeah.
bylaws. So
And it would have to go
There's-
through everything.
yeah, exactly. There'd be no chance that they could put something higher up.
Right, which is what would make it potentially more valuable,
Right.
how many acres is it?
It is 20 acres.
20 acres. I mean, I know it's a high price, but I'll just go on the record for saying that would be a pretty stellar access point to get into Brownell Mountain. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I think the tricky bit is we don't have a clear vision laid out for what we want to do if we had access to Brownell Mountain. How much of it would we want pedestrian on? Would we want it clearings as a vista? Is it better just to leave it as an unmanaged natural area? Haven't really come to a consensus, it seems like, on what we would do even if we had access.
Right.
Certainly
And
not.
There's also the question of, it's likely that if you had that and the town has this, that you can negotiate access here,
That's not guaranteed yet.
or here, but it's also not guaranteed.
I thought we have the easement at the top of the.
We have this easement.
David, I
Okay.
don't think Eric and I are seeing what you're showing.
Oh, what are you seeing?
Oh, no, okay.
Oh, what are you seeing?
No, I can see your cursor now. I
see it's the ArcGIS Survey 123 screen.
Oh, that is not what I'm sharing. Oh, thank you. Apologies. Well, for anyone watching this on YouTube, the ArcGIS screen is trail monitoring. What we're actually talking about is the town of Williston tax map. This is the parcel. Are you seeing that now, Eric and Lynn?
Yep.
yes.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Thanks, Lynn. That makes much more sense
Yeah.
to me now.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just give that tour again quickly when you said here, here, and here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the vacant parcel that is currently for sale at 899. There's a small log landing at the bottom and an access road that goes up. You can sort of faintly see the outline. That access road is used by the company that maintains this communications equipment at the top. This is the town-owned parcel. And in maybe it was 2009, during a previous subdivision, the town received an 8 by 22 easement. Roughly this little corner of this parcel owned by Rick and Sue Brownell, that was a small portion of the access road that overlapped with their property. The intent of receiving that was that at the time, there was interest in gaining access to the whole existing access road for pedestrian access to Brown Mountain. Although that plan has since kind of fizzled. It's not currently on the desired trails map, as you all learned during recent Brownell subdivision review. So that's the deal. Okay, so it's kind of food for thought, but let's leave it there and then I'll stop sharing and I will share just the agenda. Well, okay, so this is just to point out, I've linked two resources for you that we don't have time to review today. These are summaries of ongoing activity related to state natural resource regulation that I think would be a great idea for all the commissioners to review. The first is with regards to the wetland rule change that was an outcome of the governor's executive order last year. That has been moving through the rule change process. Agency of Natural Resources proposed a rule change to take action on the governor's order. And LCAR, which is the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules, responsible for reviewing that, has reviewed the rule change and wrote a letter in opposition to the rule change, citing three different reasons why they think that the rule change is not viable according to the state law.
The rule change was to loosen restrictions on land use that has wetlands.
Yes, exactly, right. So in certain areas that were identified to reduce the buffer to 25 feet. So there, you should read the letter. They outline the areas, arbitrariness of the way the process was going to be done was one of the reasons. Lack of grounding in science was a second. I can't recall the third one off the top of my head.
So they've asked ANR to respond within 14 days of the letter. And so, but LCAR is pretty powerful. I mean, they can pretty much sync a rulemaking process, whether it's, poorly constructed like this one, or if it's like well researched and, 3 years in the making. So it looks like we're pushing on that 14-day reply period. Are you following this?
I haven't heard any additional updates. I would doubt that the Agency of Natural Resources has a strong response, because I think that at least the ripple underneath the surface was that this was expected.
Like, we'll write it, but we think it's gonna get blocked. Kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll write it, but we think that the objections to it are pretty obvious, as have been raised by many parties. So we'll see. Maybe because it was obvious they have a response, but it seems right now like there certainly is a viable chance that this is not going to affect. So, the second update is a summary from Vermont League of Cities and Towns about the changing political landscape that led to the repeal of the road rule in Tier 3 from Act 181. I think it's an interesting quick recap that it gives you dates as kind of like how their tracking of what changed in the legislative session, when different things came to them. So it's an interesting read. Obviously, the implementation of Act 181 is going to be an ongoing process, and we're going to see how it unfolds with regards to how Act 250 changes. But I think it's worth your time to read. And with that, I'm a few minutes over, so I'll stop and turn it back over to Dave.
Okay, we have some open discussion items. Reed wanted to talk about the current ERF funding situation, and Laura, I guess you have an update on the Vermont Naturalist.
Yeah, do you want to share the spreadsheet, Dave, with the
I'll
balance for the
pull
year?
that up real quick if you want to start talking.
Sure, so as we know, in 2025, we received $40,000 of allocation from the select board for the ERF. In 2026 was the first time we were collecting based on the Article 8 was the initial, the article the previous year. So that resulted in 108,000 plus or minus being added last year. We had an additional 12.25 thousand in interest that was added to the value. So now we're up to 668,000 in the ERF, and this year we expect to have a similar amount, like right 100 and change, likely to be deposited early in 2027. So we're at, mid 600s, and next year we will likely be in the mid to upper 700s. Gives you an idea of where we stand as far as looking at potential acquisitions, projects. It's a much healthier situation than we were in, just 4 years ago. But as we just discussed, a single parcel can be a pretty expensive project, so we do have to keep that in mind when we think about using it. And I know the commission has, largely through your leadership, David, wanted to demonstrate a direction with the funding, not necessarily, we don't just have to go out and spend all the money, that's not the goal, but to show action, to show consideration of potential parcels, and to show that we're prioritizing certain things that are valuable.
We're knocking on that door now, so that's for sure.
And just to tie into other things that have been going on the town green fair, town green town fair, on the town green fair activity, kind of the way that people voted with their pretend money was roughly in equal parts for recreation, for natural environment, that they valued all the different ways in which you could think of using ERF money to conserve things. So we should keep that in mind as we consider projects that are more recreation oriented, projects that are more conservation oriented. All of them are desirable from the public standpoint. I think we saw the same feedback in the town plan survey and workshops. Same thing. A lot of people were like, yeah, like I want to see pretty things, I want to be in pretty things, and I also want to just know that we're preserving pretty things, or even if you can't see them. So, or harvest. That's kind of the status of the ERF funding and how it fits into the context of what we've been discussing in the public.
Yeah, thank you, Reed. So to put a finer point on that 2027 deposit amount, because it was the exact same amount, we would expect a little bit of growth because it was it's pennies on the tax rate, not a specific amount to be collected.
Yeah, the grand list, I think, had a very marginal increase, like almost zero.
So I actually received an update from the assistant town manager. There's actually expected a slight very minor contraction because I think there were some large commercial properties that were reassessed.
Yeah.
Something along that line. So it's going to be very comparable to last year, but I think it might actually be a couple $100 smaller.
Okay. So 107 plus 667. So we're at, 74.
And then another 25K,
right,
whatever from interest.
Yeah, so we're at 3/4 of a mil at this point. That's a lot, especially if you consider the fact that we can double it if we find the right land trust to work in collaboration with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as we think about a Marcotte conversation, et cetera, I think it gives us something to work with.
I don't know that this is the right time to bring it up, but obviously, we had been in talks with adjacent landowners about providing access to the Big Bend parcel. And that is now for sale.
Yeah, I'd wondered about purchasing just.
Right.
Wait, what's for sale?
Global Foundries, Williston
Oh.
campus.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very interesting question. I think that the challenges there are it's a large parcel, so any subdivision I mean, really any reconfiguration of use is almost certainly gonna require like a master planning for the whole site. And it's the kind of site that Williston's bylaw specific plan process was really kind of like designed for. So planning departments talked about, doing some potentially pre-visioning, just as like, can we help potentially facilitate a productive conversion of, if this is gonna be sold and someone's looking at, use, then we map out the natural resources in advance and provide some information about, where really is the developable part of it, if any.
And what are the best uses
Yeah,
of
what are kind of the
remainder?
best uses of the remainder, so I think but because that whole process likely needs to play out for any lines to be drawn on that, it's unlikely that that's gonna be a low hanging fruit.
Yeah, do you know if the property, I mean, I haven't looked at, or don't have access, or don't know what the property line is, and does it go to that road? Are they actually still selling the part of the land that is the road? Cause my understanding was they still have a requirement to install a specific amount of solar arrays, to meet their obligation to the Public Utility Commission. And so if they sell off all their land, they can't do that. They can't fill those parcels with solar.
It's a good question. I'd have to look into it.
Yeah, okay. Also, Matt's comment in the Williston Observer, opening the bridge to public traffic was like. I would ask if Matt's ever been on that bridge, because the bridge is engineeringly perfectly suited. But then as soon as you get off that bridge and you head towards Essex, it is clearly not a public road in any stretch, other than like directly back to the other bridge. It goes underneath massive infrastructure that is not suitable for
Got
a public road, and I know that because they do allow bikes to go through there, and I only,
Oh, interesting. I didn't know.
yeah, and I only go through there on the weekends, but
I use it on the weekends too.
yeah.
Really, it's really
I
nice.
like it.
I've
Yeah,
never
like,
biked through there,
It's great.
so you can bike from the Redmond Road
Yeah,
all the way through
Yeah.
to Essex.
yeah, past
It's a great
the
way to get
Essex
to Essex.
police station, yeah.
Oh, I should try that
But-
sometime.
There's a massive nitrogen production facility that then is piped over the road, and the clearance on it is like, I don't know, 20 feet at most. I mean, it's not a lot. It's not anything
Does it
close.
feel friendly to?
It is not conducive to public traffic, like, period, because of all of that infrastructure, and there's no shoulder, it's clearly like industrial use.
Yeah, it's great. So I didn't see that Observer article, so I can't comment.
Yeah.
I know Matt
Just
is
a friendly-
really good at thinking
Yeah.
big picture and long term. For Williston, so might be the kind of thing that, it's in 50 years, it could be, the right,
Sure.
an acquisition now could be the right thing for the future of the town, playing out over the long term. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're building nitrogen or making nitrogen to make their chips there, it's gonna be hard to make that access possible.
Makes sense.
But anyways, to back on track to the budget update, thank you very much, Reed, that's super helpful, and also helpful context as we go into executive session on the 17th or whatever date it is, first, right? Yeah. Okay, great. Laura.
Okay, this is an update and a request. So if you remember Alicia Daniel, who is the director of Vermont Master Naturalist, came and asked us for money for actually a Vermont Master Naturalist program that just finished. It was pretty Williston centric. And had some Williston folks in it, like Amanda from Catamount. And there's another program starting in September that already has some Williston people enrolled in it, and it's called the Lower Winooski program, and so it includes the town of Williston to Burlington. And I did advertise it on Front Porch Forum. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
And so that did generate a lot of interest. So there's ongoing interest right now and people are interested that haven't applied yet if they're going to apply. So they've contacted Erin, who is the program coordinator. So I'm wondering if we could, and actually there's a tier 2, and what tier 2 is for people who have taken the Vermont Master Naturalist Program. It's the next thing you can do just to, it's new places, more information, a collaboration between participants and the coordinators. And that is going on right now, and Amanda's actually in that one also. But the request is to look again, because I think we did put money aside for the Vermont Master Naturalist Program for the one that begins in September. And so if we could put that on the agenda, we can look at the request again and I can tell Alicia about it and does that make sense?
Yeah, so I can, so that I can't remember if you wrote, I think maybe I wrote a memo after the Conservation Commission had their discussion, a budget addition memo was
Yeah.
presented to
Right.
the select board that said, this is this discrete ask. It'd be funding for the fiscal year 27 planning and zoning budget for the purpose of supporting this program. And that was approved by the select board, which is pretty remarkable in last year's.
Yeah, I remember them feeling like this is a small dollar amount and we know that there's been substantive projects that Williston has benefited from and they just were like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah, and they felt bad for rejecting the PRF funding request.
So that request is two-part. One was a funding for a scholarship to support one of the people from Williston that's going to participate in the project and cover the cost of that person. And then the support funding to launch the program, launch and run the program. So the other side of this discussion is, that money is in the planning and zoning budget, but the Conservation Commission should still weigh in on, how do you want to engage with this program, given that this funding to support it was improved? So I know the last time this discussion was had, there was, productive number of ideas from members of the commission about, okay, well, should we be pre-identifying projects that happen in Williston? Should there be some kind of commitment that a certain number of hours should happen in Williston? A certain number of people from Williston should be participating in the program to receive the funding. So that part of the conversation, I think it's the right time to have it because the fiscal year is about to turn around and that funding will then be available to disperse to the program. So
How much was that approved for?
I have to look back. I think it was roughly $4,000, maybe 4,100 or something, which is $675, I think was the scholarship, or 700 around there was the scholarship, and then around 3,000 and change was the program support.
Kind of feels to me like similar to the bench situation where we talk about it, get some general feedback. And then a subcommittee goes out and just gets done and reports back on it. Is probably the right approach. It's not probably something we need to spend a lot of time on, other than wanting to sort of hear how it goes, is my thought.
And just to clarify the approval from the select board, they approved that for like a discrete, like just that 1 year. So if we were to recommend it again, it would have to go back through the same process, like every single time.
Yes, yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Or be a line item in our, in the planning budget, right? If we knew about it early enough, it could just be part of the proposed budget for the year.
Yeah, so certainly, there's kind of two ways, I guess, you can go about proposing funding increase. One is, at was it, I think around August or whatever, when this process is really kicking off. Each department presents a budget for next year, so we can look at the line items we have and say, this just, we think this should be baked in, for example. And then on the side of that, you can present additions, individual discrete items that you want the select board to consider. So they're looking at everything as a whole, and they also might consider these secondary additions. So last year, the ERF was presented as a standalone addition to the budget. That was not approved. This funding package to support the Vermont Master Naturalist Program, Tri-Town program, including Williston, was also presented as a budget addition.
Yeah.
But you're right, these are one-time approvals, and they can be modified or rejected or accepted by, in the process of that.
So back to the agenda item, is that it sounded like something specific was being put on the table in that context.
Oh, I just wanted to, yeah, I guess, talk about the details and if we wanted to indeed, see what the numbers are and and decide to actually give that money to Vermont Master Naturals.
The money has been approved to be available, and now we have to
Right.
decide whether to use it on this.
Right, because if they say, well, there's one person from Williston, do we say,
Thank you.
yeah.
The question is, do we now give the funds out for this particular use?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, do you wanna, is there more to report out that you wanna come back to the commission with, or are you looking for that approval now?
Not now,
Okay,
no, it could be August.
okay, great.
So that's helpful to know.
Then let's put it in August.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if Alicia is able to provide like the necessary information we need to make the decision, like
Right,
what is it likely that the group will be focused on? How many Williston people have signed up? All that. Is there anybody who is requesting scholarship or financial assistance that we would allocate it to?
Right.
That all that information would be helpful.
Right.
And are
So
the
that's-
other towns also contributing? I mean, that could also be helpful information.
Oh,
right,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah. Where's the other funding coming from?
Yeah, it's, sometimes towns do like Richmond last year did. And sometimes they're like, nope. We don't have the money.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think thank you for the sort of process update, or, because that's kind of what I was asking, and I think that's what makes sense is, let's hear back about how many Williston folks are gonna be here, what the focus on Williston is gonna be. We can make our approval for the final sort of budget recommendation, and then if we do make that recommendation, we can just sort of delegate follow-up and sort of reporting back on the results, to like a subcommittee process.
okay,
All right, and with that,
Excellent.
we're back on.
Yep,
Back on
right on time. Town Hall Field Stormwater Project, so I was not here last week or 2 weeks ago for that discussion, but I read the minutes. Sounds like a lot of ground was covered, but now we're gonna sort of like go into the plan and I don't know, I'll let you sort of kick it off, Dave.
Yeah, sounds good. So let me get the agenda back up.
Well, David pulls it up. I'm recusing myself from this conversation because we're gonna be making a decision about a parcel that abutting landowner.
All right, thank you, Reed. You wanna like run around the block, or you?
I'm just gonna enjoy sitting back.
All right, fair enough.
I wonder what I'm gonna eat for breakfast.
Okay. Okay, so welcome, Lisa. Thanks for stopping in again to the meeting this week. So last week, Lisa and I provided an update on the stormwater project for connected to the Allenbrook Flow Restoration Plan that is planned and proposed for the Town Hall Field backed by I-89. So there are a couple layers to that. We kind of went through first with all the history of the project and acknowledged some of the challenges along the way of a, long 10-year process essentially that goes all the way back to when this flow restoration plan was put together. Included the last time the management plan for the site was updated in 2018, where that plan was referenced, and then several different attempts along the way by different stormwater coordinators to make that a reality. And at least the first one who's actually been able to bring funding and permitting and design together to have a viable proposal, and in the nick of time to take advantage of the ARPA funds that are currently available via the funding. So along the course of this project, public comment came to the Conservation Commission that there was an open question of, when was the last time this came to the Conservation Commission, and have we kind of done our due diligence on connecting with the easement holder? So that was really helpful. We connected and we were able to look into it and realize that, okay, because of some of the staff turnover and the amount of time that this project's been going on over, we're a little behind on that, or maybe a lot behind. But in any case, we connected with the easement holder, which is VHCB. So there's a 1995 easement on this site that designated it as a parcel of land that could be available for both conservation and potentially housing, as Vermont Housing and Conservation Board easements of that era tend to be. It's a very wet site, so there's not any plans for housing on it. It's very unlikely that could ever materialize, but we looked at the conservation easement purpose and use, and the way that purpose and use is connected to the management plan. And Isaac Bissell, who's the conservation stewardship director at VHCB, issued a letter of interpretation along with or confirmed by legal counsel at VHCB that says that this plan is a approved use or permitted use of the property, that is consistent with the purposes of the easement and consistent with the management plan and their interpretation. So that letter was provided last Friday. Hopefully you got a chance to read that. I should open that up. But it just outlines their interpretation of it. And so the last piece of this really is just to come back to the Conservation Commission, which is the body that wrote this management plan and that has a significant responsibility implementing and overseeing it. And to see if you have any further comment, if you concur with this interpretation that the project is suitable for the site, or if you wish to present any comments otherwise to the select board about the project.
All right, thanks, Laura.
It seemed straightforward to me, made sense that this is, an allowed use.
Yeah, I thought the letter was well written, and while I didn't sort of follow the blow by blow of the sort of legal reasoning, I sort of understood the larger point that they were making. Mostly just because I didn't have time to sort of go back and do all of these section 3 and section 2 cross references against paragraph 8. But I understand. I thought it was a sort of reasonable interpretation for what the town was planning here.
I agree. I thought it was reasonable, although, I can't really interpret the legal part of it, but defer to Isaac for that interpretation.
Yeah, Laura.
And if Lisa wouldn't mind, could you just give a very general, this is a great place for this because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
okay.
That would be helpful.
So the town has a town-wide stormwater permit, and under that, there are requirements from the state. One of them is our flow restoration plan, so that's specifically for the Allen Brook. We have to do certain projects within the Allen Brook watershed to try and improve the water quality there, because it's considered stormwater impaired. So back when the flow restoration plan was developed, there was a townwide analysis of all the places that we could do these projects. A lot of them are in neighborhoods, so we've taken over neighborhood ponds and things like that and maintained those. And then this is one that was chosen to be on a town parcel. This was really the only location it could feasibly be because it has to be within the Allenbrook watershed on town land. And so we decided to go on this parcel that we already have in the Allenbrook watershed. It'll be treating some of the runoff from 89. And we'll have some capacity to slow the water down so that it's not rushing into the Allenbrook during heavy storms and filter the water out. So there's kind of twofold treatment there, and the locations, it really just has to do with the watershed that we're required to treat under the permit.
That makes sense, thanks.
How exactly does it affect the Allen Brook, and how does the runoff from Interstate 89 actually flow? Like, where in the site plans does the topographic map? Because that's kind of the point that I'm always just going back to, which is like, isn't this kind of like I don't drive this section of road very often, but like my recollection is that it's not a particularly like impactful area for 89, like it, nor do I actually know how 89 is constructed and how the runoff is.
Yeah,
is
you can
diverted.
see in the bottom, oh, yeah, any one of these will work. There is a culvert from 89 that will be flowing into this.
Is that those dotted?
The
double
very
lines?
bottom, yeah, right there.
Okay.
So
makes
that
sense.
Eric,
It's
that's
not
where
treating a
cursor
huge
is.
area, to be fair, but it is receiving water straight from 89.
Yeah, but with large rain events, it probably would be helpful.
Right, is 89 bowing up there, or is it convex there?
Typically the roads are graded to flow to either side, and the culvert could be collecting water from the kind of the middle in between the two directions.
Yeah, I mean, is it a low point or a high point in 89? Because I seem to remember the information center sort of being more on like a high point. So
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Culverts break up the flow, so they don't need to be at a low point in the road. It'll receive anything, but between the next culvert and this one will be flowing into that water, so,
Okay.
yeah. But I don't know the topography of
Right.
that 89 would be.
is this ever reasonably gonna actually fill up and provide that sort of meaningful level of water retention? Or is this a town requirement that we have a parcel of land that is convenient for the use of it?
I mean, we're required to do it by the permit, yes, but it is designed by engineers to treat this area and get the maximum
Right.
value we can. Yeah.
Eric,
Thanks. Hey, Lisa, so V-Trans needs to maintain, unless I'm completely wrong in my memory, they need to maintain an MS4 permit for like all of 89. And I think as part of that, they have their own equivalent of a flow restoration plan kind of a thing. Is this project factored into that? And perhaps more importantly, are they contributing to the cost of this work?
Yeah, I think under our flow restoration plan, they have, like, you can see there are some transportation projects. That they technically call it a TS4 instead of an MS4.
Yep.
And they have done projects for 89. I think one of them might be called out in our flow restoration plan, and it's nearby.
yeah,
Mhm.
so I didn't read the whole plan, but I concur with that. When I looked through the plan for the references about this project, I could see that in that flow restoration plan, it says sort of like, here's V-Trans's part, and V-Trans is gonna do these
Yeah.
projects on V-Trans land, and here's the town's part, the town's gonna do these projects on town land.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a collaboration in that regard, but not the town and V-Trans are collaborating with this project.
Right,
Sort of like the
yeah.
town's
Mm.
piece of it.
Yeah.
But that is a limited understanding. I didn't read the whole report.
Yeah, it just seems like on this one, like the town is I don't recall off the top of my head what the price tag is for this, but the town is investing a lot of resources into this stormwater project to manage what seems to me, to Dave's point, a lot of runoff coming from 89.
Yeah, I mean, it is treating runoff from 89, but it's also treating other parts of this drainage area. A lot of it is just from a field that used to be agriculture, so there's
Mhm.
some of that getting treated well. The
Yep.
So yeah, the flow restoration plans, the thing with stormwater treatment is that you're doing the best you can with retrofitting spaces. So we aren't able to always choose optimal locations and sizes for
Right.
things because there's
Yeah.
already infrastructure there, so we have to work around it. So in terms of our goal here is just to treat the Allen Brook, and so that's the reason for this location,
Treat
is
the
that's,
treat
yeah.
the runoff going into the Ellenbrook. Right. Understood.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I guess my point is, can we get V-Trans to contribute to the cost of that treatment to Ellenbrook? Because a chunk of it is
Yeah,
their water we're managing.
I don't think so because of the way the full restoration plan is written, that we each have our
All right.
own access,
All
I
right.
was saying, yeah.
All
I
right.
think the
I'll let
pond
it
is well
go.
taken.
Yeah, yeah. But we do have a lot of state grant funds that we could use for this if we are able to complete it on time, so not that much town money will be going to it in the grand scheme of how expensive the projects can be.
Great.
So from prior discussion on this topic, this commission's been told this is a generally pretty wet parcel. And is it wet because of runoff from 89, or is it wet from like ground seep, like, and will this project basically dry it out? Like send it all underground, divert all of that sort of wetness and surface flow deeper underground and thus not into the Alhambra? Is that the intent of this project?
I wouldn't expect it to dry the parcel out because, yeah, I think a lot of it is groundwater and this is designed to treat runoff. So things flowing over the surface of the field will get into the gravel wetland and then infiltrate. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't expect it to dry out the rest of the parcel.
Okay. How deep underground is it going?
So there'll be a basin on the surface. I don't know, if maybe we can go to another sheet that has the elevations, yeah. So,
And I can keep scrolling. I don't know.
No, I
I don't
think
know
that
if there's
one
a
is good.
particular one that is helpful. Oh, excuse me.
yeah, essentially there's a basin on the top that'll be like a few feet deep and that holds water as it, so it can infiltrate into the underlayer, which is like a few feet more of gravel that has kind of a micro ecosystem that helps remove the nutrients and helps the sediment settle so that the water coming out is a lot cleaner. But on the surface, it'll look kind of like a traditional stormwater pond, but vegetated with wetland plants. So not very deep, and standing water shouldn't stay there for very long because the goal is to get it into that gravel layer and then send it out.
And there's two pits, is that right?
Yeah, yep, there's two cells.
Okay.
One's a little bit deeper than the other one because of the, I think, ledge underneath that location.
And out of curiosity, what are those polygons that look like gravel polygons? Yeah, those
This one?
guys.
I
Yeah.
think those are rockline swales, so some of them are flowing into the system, some of them are flowing out of the system, and some of them are between the two cells. So if you get a lot of water at once,
Oh,
there overflows.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, are those gonna be vegetated as well?
Not really, no, the rock line is so that they don't erode if you're getting a lot of water flow at the same time, so they're kind of armored, and then the rest of it's vegetated.
Yeah. And so there will be like a visual impact to that aspect of it.
Yes, yeah, there'll be a couple of like hard structures, and then the rest will be vegetated.
Okay, any thoughts or questions from the commission on the drawings? Okay. I know last week from the minutes, you guys spent a lot of time talking about invasive management. Especially around like the wetland characteristics, and you've also got a road. How frequently is that road gonna be used? And
It'll be really busy during construction, and then after that, a couple times a year.
okay,
Gravel can be a big source of bringing in invasive seeds. And I know, or I understand that some gravel pits are really working to reduce invasives. Is it possible to get gravel from such a gravel pit?
I can talk to the engineers about that. I know they have approval over some of the materials that are being brought in, because the soils have to not have a ton of nutrients in them, so I can ask them about that.
Yeah, it's also likely that in the, this project is registered for a general permit and as under wetlands, is that right?
It has a wetlands registration.
Wetland registration,
It
yeah.
falls under the threshold for needing a permit.
Yeah, there likely is some required monitoring with, like the registration rules. So
Yeah, I can double check that.
I think that's something that we can collaborate on as well, knowing that, right. Just as you're saying, Lynn, I think, there's always potential when gravel's moved around and, the sooner we monitor,
Yeah.
the better chances we have to, take appropriate action to prevent, Phragmites, this becoming a Phragmites pit, which is what
Yeah.
was said last time. That's the
I
goal.
mean, isn't that inevitable, given its proximity to 89? I mean, that's like a super highway of Phragmites seeds, right? I mean,
I don't think
Yeah.
it's inevitable. If Phragmites, like any of these like rhizomatic plants, once they get established, they can be very difficult to treat. But you do have an opportunity at the start to prevent that from becoming a reality. So, right, it's a fair point. Invasive management is challenging, but I think, given that what the Conservation Commission has said so far in this project, I think we can prioritize that.
yeah, I mean, I guess because the point would be is that we don't want this project to take over, have a invasive takeover of what is now the public land that's entrusted to the
Mhm.
commission, right? So we would like to prevent that, right? So can we stipulate in like RFPs that go out for this bidding that like, things like gravel washing take place off-site, to prevent the spread of invasives, that only clean gravel is coming in, like those kinds of stipulations? Has that,
The RFP's already gone out, but we do have the pre-bid meeting this afternoon, so it's something we could try to put on the record with all the questions and answers, that
Yeah.
that's a priority for the site.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, that should be a mentioned to the, I mean, it's too bad that it wasn't posted in the RFP. Because, an invasive management plan should start at the construction of the project, right? Okay,
Yeah, as soon as the first vehicle arrives on site.
yeah. Yeah, that really, and that's the concern, is that it becomes a pit and a vector for all of the things that we actively try to
Mhm.
manage against in this commission, so, yeah. Okay, not to belabor that point, anything more on the site plans that we should be discussing in this? We do have another 10 minutes for this agenda topic, so we can go deep if we need to. Dave, you also provided the field management plan, the conservation easement, flow restoration plan. All of those things were sort of useful for if you wanted to talk us through any of them in particular.
Yeah, I think the other thing, there were sort of two other things we touched on last time. One was kind of like larger reflections on the process and like learning points. I know Kim had raised that. I think you'd raised that too, is, how can, given that getting VHCB involved was kind of last minute on this project, and, our connection was, like, it would have been great if we connected sooner on this project, we know that there are structural reasons related to staff turnover and commission turnover and the length of putting this project together that led to that, but, what are lessons we can learn in the future? Are there, structural check-in points that we can build in between our positions? Regular checks that we can build into the Conservation Commission's schedule for like, hey, let's just cruise through our management plans, 10-year plans for all of the parcels that we're managing, and do a quick check on, what's going on. So that was one point of conversation that felt productive. And then with relation to the management plan, the other component of Isaac's analysis that he kind of pointed out was this. And before improvements or changes for a particular use are commenced, alternate uses for the parcel that would be foreclosed by the proposed use should be evaluated. And what that means basically is we should all be looking at this and saying, okay, will this stormwater project prevent another use from occurring on this parcel that should be happening out here? So given that the easement allows for potential of housing, affordable housing development, is the siting this, could that block that from ever taking place on the site? The answer was no, not really. You'd never put houses here. Recreation was kind of the other big one that came up in the conversation last time. There's long been a hope to have a hiking trail out here, and this path shows kind of roughly the current one. We know that there have been a lot of challenges with getting a permanent hiking trail out there, largely due to the amount of wetlands that are out there. And also related to uncertainty over when this project would occur, in what form it would occur. So that was the other thing, is this gonna foreclose on the possibility of recreation? And the answer is no. The current walking path, does go through what will become the back of this. So that's a conversation to be had, with this going in. Is there also an opportunity to do some planning to finally put in more of a permanent walking path? It could be a great opportunity for some educational signage out here about stormwater infrastructure and phosphorus reduction, those kinds of goals. The access drive that's going to be seeded over could also be, walked on by recreationists. So that was the other component of that conversation last week, was just thinking about that, uses that could be foreclosed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't have anything to vote on here. This is just feedback that we're sort of providing to.
You could, if the Conservation Commission felt strongly that they, that you wanted to make an advisory comment to the select board about this project. If you disagreed with the interpretation of the HCB or something like that, this would absolutely be the time to comment.
Okay.
I don't think you have to vote on anything, but that's kind of what we're looking for today, is either a concurrence that, you've seen these plans, you understand the process. We've kind of all reconnected on why this project is in play, why it's been cited where it has, and the sign off of the easement holder that was really requested by the commission, and an important part of this process that we've then followed through on. So that's what kind of needs to happen now.
Any commission members wanna have a discussion on that right now? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I don't have anything particularly that comes to mind. Having not been here last week, I don't know what you guys all talked about exactly, but appreciated the thorough minutes and all of the materials. I don't know that I have anything more to add or discuss at this point. Other than to say, it is too bad that the RFP is already out, because I think it would have been our recommendation to include options for both that walking trail to be part of the sort of like project and the presence of an invasive species management plan. So like, I think that idea of having that RFP out right now is, we can't make that recommendation, right? So, I appreciate that you're gonna open it up for the discussion in the pre-bid call. That would be great. Now that I'm thinking of it, we could make a recommendation as a commission if we wanted to give a preferential treatment to a project that includes that. Like a bid adder, that is something that we we could recommend in this meeting, for example. Yeah,
I think Lisa, understands, what we want, and so she's gonna be there. I just don't think we need to put anything else out there. That's just my opinion.
I appreciate that. I am not a Phragmites expert, but I do have experience working in aquatic invasive removal, so it's definitely something I understand and have on my radar. I know there are standards for making sure the materials are clean in certain ways in the RFP, so I'll look into whether we can just clarify that that also means making sure you're not tracking invasives if it's not already in there. And then, yeah, we'll talk about it with the contractors and engineers to make sure everybody's vigilant about it during construction, since it's right here. Me and my intern will also be out there pretty much every day, keeping an eye on everything, and also just to make sure from a stormwater perspective that they're not tracking mud offsite or letting anything flow into the wetland. And then after construction, if there's an opportunity to work together on monitoring for invasives, I'm very interested in that.
well, it sounds like without discussion, we can close this one out, and thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
in
thanks
and
for
talking
having
us
me.
through it.
Yeah, thank you all for your engagement. And I guess my last kind of, returning to the idea of what can we learn from the process, because I know that was something that has come up at the commission's discussions. I think this idea of, continuous engagement is a really great one for the town moving forward. And I think thinking about these structural checks, I plan, when I started my position, I had kind of, some minimal guiding documents about how to get on board and what, the course of the year looks like. So I am planning on kind of outlining a little more of like, what are the annual checkpoints, for the conservation planner, and thinking about interdisciplinary check-ins. That's something we've talked a lot about in the planning department too, is just as the town gets bigger, as our processes get more sophisticated, there's more and more call for kind of interdisciplinary workings, whereas when the town was small, or smaller, a lot of our processes worked independently and still do. So I think there's a lot of healthy growth that can occur in the future with just the degree to which we're connecting all these projects. And Lisa and I have been working together closely on the Catamount Trails project out there and its interaction with stormwater. We've talked about her work on the Blue program. So there's a lot of great things that I think we can continue to collaborate on the staff side, and also just providing these check-ins with the commission and FaceTime
Yeah.
with the Public Works Department, I think is great.
Yeah, happy to. And I know that last time I was here, there was some mention of like flood mitigation projects, and through the Lake Champlain Sea Grant connection that I have with the Blue program, they mentioned there's someone whose job is, I believe, flood restoration project outreach and education. So if you have any interest in learning about what other municipalities have done, or just getting like a background information on river dynamics, she'd be happy to come in and talk about that.
Thanks. I know Kim would probably take her up on that.
It would be a hard yes.
Yeah,
on that.
it'd be a hard yeah. Dave, that brings me to the sort of larger point that you were just talking about, which is that, and our website, it's like, I've been on the commission now for going on almost 5 years or something like that, I'm not sure. But this one came out of the blue for me, right? And it's like, I thought I was familiar with all the parcels that we had some degree of like management and oversight on. But it occurs to me that there might be little sleepers out there all over the place that I'm just, like, we should consolidate that, put it in like, the Conservation Commission website and say like, these are all of the parcels that have management plans, be they active, inactive, updated in the last 20 years or not, just like everything that we have.
Yeah.
That ultimately would need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, it's a big project, but I think an important one in the long term that we can collaborate
sure.
on. And this plan, just for doing all this research, it's like, okay, this plan was last updated in 2018. So it's like, it's close to another update, but you would have missed it. I'm sure a bunch of people would have missed it. And then for people who were on the commission, the last time you saw it could have been years ago. So that's one of those like structural challenges that, okay, how can we find ways to make sure that things don't fade into the background completely? And I mean, just in terms of the learning curve, like I'm still finding out, oh, we have a conservation easement on like this parcel, that's just like,
Right.
you
Like
know.
across from the fire department, there's the farmland and that's under an
Right.
easement. For certain uses as well.
Right, yeah, so I think these are really well taken points and areas we can continue to grow on.
Excellent.
I just wanted to throw out there so everybody knows that there's already Phragmites in the existing stormwater pond in the southeast corner
In the
of
back
the field.
yeah, that's-
So we already have a potential source for spread since the entire field is pretty wet. Right now it's contained to the pond itself, but just so everybody's aware.
All right.
And yeah, that is on the parcel, right? But
It
it's
is.
not a town, like it's not a stormwater town.
No, I think
don't
it's
know
like farm pond potentially.
I'm not sure.
It was
Right,
put
you
in
know?
when the highway went
Mm.
through.
Okay, so it could have
So,
been, all right,
Maybe it's, yeah.
It was a attempt at treating some of the
Okay.
flow from the
Early.
mountains, so.
okay, yeah, that's helpful.
That might be what's on the map. Cause when you look at the,
Bottom right hand corner, you'll see a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
circle. kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
So that's not
Exactly, yeah,
related to
that's the
this
existing
project,
pond.
but it's nearby.
And if we were to do like a site visit of the project at some point as a commission, we should also look at that pond because it's.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see what something looks like, what would that be, 70 some years after it was put in? And see what kind of state it's in, because in the management plan, we also have things in there like wanting to. Prevent invasives from taking over that pond and potentially have wood duck habitat. Nesting boxes and none of that stuff has actually been done, but it's never too late to do a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. We do need to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for that conversation. Very productive, and thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. Let's pivot to the oh, the visitors, actually.
Yep, that's fun.
So we're just bringing the Fontaines in for this discussion.
Yeah. We're setting up some chairs for you here. There's another couple over here. Or.
Hey,
Yeah, this one's smaller if you want to.
Oh, which is, of our house, yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen it where it was. Is that?
Yeah, they're really cool.
Get friendly.
We don't have enough.
Okay.
photos.
I write a book about it.
So,
Yeah.
staff did some diligent work yesterday. We were able to squeeze the guys in.
And it's a good thing we got a phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, to say, thank you all for bearing with, the last minute scramble. My apologies for, oversight. I'm glad we could put this in. Thanks to the commission for being willing to.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
And real quick, so Stephen, online, we are operating on a, webinar format, so I'm gonna promote you to panelist. Which will allow you to speak or share your video if you so choose. So you'll see a little box pop up and you can accept that. You'll rejoin the meeting as a panelist.
That's my husband. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So Dave, why don't you walk us, or Emily, walk us through what we're looking at?
Great. Okay, so just give me a moment to
Yeah.
reconnect here, get the.
Oh, wow, they're already calling for an inch of rain on Saturday. I'm just looking at the little weather.
Jeez, oh no, that's.
Can we just have like one sunny Saturday this year, please?
Oh, there's Steve. Oh, jeez. Steve, your video's on.
Just so you know.
He turned it on.
I am not a cat.
While he's setting up, I'll just say thank you for the canoe access. It's been
Oh,
long
yes.
on the list, but I haven't actually had a chance to use it, but I've been waiting for my son to be old enough, then strong enough to pick the canoe up with me on the car. So
Yeah.
planning to do that. So.
Yeah, we do use that. Thank you.
All right, so we'll do some lightning introductions real quick. The Fontaine family, so multiple generations of the Fontaine family are here.
Mike.
Mike?
Kirsten, his wife, Kirsten, with me, daughter.
A Kulak engineer. Nothing.
Should I keep going with introductions?
Go ahead.
Okay, Laura, Commissioner, hi, very nice to meet you.
I'm Dave, I'm chair.
Reed Carr, Commissioner.
Emily, senior planner.
Dave, conservation planner, and then online, we have,
So I'm Erica's husband. My name's Stephen Quick.
great, thanks. Okay,
We do have two commissioners.
sure.
Also, we have two commissioners also.
Oh, yes, oh, I'm so sorry, we have two commissioners online, Lynn and Eric.
There's a quorum.
Yes, yeah, we're good.
In case you're wondering.
Okay, that's probably good.
All right,
And it would
Lynn
be
may
school
need
fair.
to, Lynn may need
Always.
to bow out during this, but there'll still be a quorum present, okay.
Yeah, so this is a pre-application for a 6-lot subdivision. 2 of the lots will be 2 acres and they'll be platted around the 3 existing dwellings that are on the property. They're single family dwellings. There are 2 lots that are deferred lots. One is about 18 acres and it has the farm structures on it, so the barn off of North Williston Road, as well as the farm stand and the mobile food vendor.
Which we do not know.
Which, yeah,
Just-
yeah. The food vendor is a different business entity. And then lot 5 is off of Chapman Lane with frontage on Chapman Lane. That's the 18-acre one. And then the one with the barn is just under 6 acres, 5.6 acres. That's where the barn, the farm stand, the mobile food vendor is. That's right next to the canoe access. Right before you go over to the bridge to Essex. The last lot is lot 6, that's 88.5 acres. And overall, this project,
Can you just
Yeah.
explain what a deferred lot is? I'm not
Yeah.
aware of that.
I think it might make sense then to just jump to section 31. About the agricultural rural residential zoning district. So we have that standard that when there's a subdivision in this district, open space is set aside 75% of the parent parcel. This parcel is actually much larger. There's land holdings on the south side of Chapman Lane and south side of the railroad tracks. However, our bylaw has a provision where something's split by a public road or the railway. You only look at them as separate parcels. So for the purpose of our bylaw and open space calculation, it's the land area to the north.
Real quick, Emily, where would you like me to be?
That's
Showcase,
fine. And then, yeah, we can jump down to page 5.
page 5.
Yeah, so chapter 31. So they are setting aside that 75%. And then what happens in that remainder 25% is those 3 existing houses and those deferred lots. So what we're using as deferred lots is they're not proposing to put houses on them today, but they could come back in the future to amend the subdivision and put home sites in that 25% land area. At that time, and just making sure that that open space part of the subdivision is taken care of today.
So the current use on those lots is the existing agricultural uses.
Yeah,
And that's where the farm stand is too, right?
Yeah,
that's where the farm stand is too, yeah. So we have certain lands that need to be within the protected open space. Overall, this parcel does have some of those natural resource areas. The 2 ones are conservation areas. For the farmlands and some habitat areas and then scenic view sheds. So if and when lots 2 or 5 come in for further development, then we would be looking at where home sites, where building envelopes make sense. That's when the bylaw might trigger a habitat disturbance assessment, if it's deemed necessary at that time. But the core of this application right now is to plat lots around the 3 existing dwellings and make sure that that open space requirement is fulfilled. Jumping back up now, does that make sense on the different
Yes,
lots?
thank you.
Yeah, so it's high for ERF prioritization. The official map doesn't map any desired trails across this property. And notably, I noted that the canoe access is not on the official map. A lot of the parcel is significant habitat area. Mainly, it's the travel corridor along the Winooski River. There's a very de minimis amount of the parcel on page 4 shown that's proposed on lot 1, but again, there's no development being proposed as part of this application. It's just,
This little nub that sticks out and
yeah,
attempted to draw the boundary. So green is where that travel corridor extends to. Red is the proposed lot boundary that aligns with the watershed buffer.
So what is a travel corridor? It's a thing that goes over the bed.
So Williston has two what are called significant wildlife habitat areas in our zoning bylaw. They're core habitats and their travel corridors. And the mapping for those came out of work that was done in the 2000s and 2010s with collaboration from the University of Vermont Spatial Analysis Laboratory.
Mhm.
And they brought out biologists to do surveys, and they did they took land use maps, and they created these polygons of areas where there are features that are in different categories for core habitats, things like interior forest, edge forest.
Mhm.
In this case, this is all mapped in what they call large agricultural fields,
Mhm.
which is sort of a question, okay, why might that be in core habitats? Some of the large agricultural fields in Williston are known areas of grassland breeding birds go there, bobolinks, savanna sparrows. So that's one of the reasons why that was flagged as core habitat at the time.
I just mean that specific line.
And then,
That is it's a well-used backyard, so I'm just wondering like, why?
Yeah, and then travel corridors often corresponds with existing tree lines.
Okay.
As is mapped between core habitat areas.
Okay.
And particularly along riparian areas, which are common areas for wildlife to be moving across the landscape. So the exact edges of travel corridors is, less important than
Mhm.
is like the
Yeah, that is
intact,
like-
yeah.
So.
yeah, it would be
that
a
makes
bigger
sense.
concern, like if you were doing a subdivision in a forested area and that house lot were to be proposed, right in the middle of a travel corridor versus something like that where that line is really squishy.
Yeah.
And there's ample space between, your home and the
Really
tree
on
line.
That's really
So-
just.
Yeah.
Or this is approximate just
Okay.
where,
Yeah.
where we drew it, but it would have been created there because that would have been the location of the tree line
Yeah.
at the time that it was made,
Yeah, there are some, there's no unique natural communities mapped on the property. There are uncommon, rare, threatened, and endangered species, but again, that's along that Winooski River travel corridor where no development is proposed. The majority, if not all, I think all of that frontage on this lot is gonna be within that open space.
I can actually specifically clarify that the two occurrences that exist here are aquatic species that are associated with the river. So to the degree to which they could interact with the property would maybe be restricted to the shoreline area, which is encompassed within the proposed open space.
Thanks.
Farmlands of local importance, so this is a high scoring property with a score of 199 out of 236. Again, if lots 2 and lots 5 are developed, the standards of 28.7.8.6 call for minimizing encroachment and clustering lots and building sites. You want to scroll up just a little bit so
Yes.
the text other way.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Go down. Yeah.
and clustering lots and building sites to avoid fragmentation, which is logically what the Fontaines would probably do anyway, because a lot of lot 5 still has some of that high value farmland. Wanting to be mindful of that both for the success of the farm, not just the bylaw standards.
And I don't know if you need to know at this point, but the western edge of the property on Chapman Lane, the northeastern, southeastern corner is already in permanent conservation.
Yeah,
So
if you wanna jump over to the site plan, we can see that.
Yeah, let's see, I have to pull that back up.
so as far as development wise, that would not,
Right, there was a transfer development, right? Is that what it was?
over to Boyer Circle.
Yeah, it says Adams Properties.
Yep.
Back by Grandpa.
Here's the tiny version.
Yeah.
I accidentally closed it, so that dotted red line, so everything over here, you're saying, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, running all the way, got it, okay, from the
Yeah.
river down to Chatham.
Yeah, so everything on that left-hand side has a private restriction on it.
The right, or right,
Right-hand side,
Right.
right.
Excuse me, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the left-hand side is what would presumably have that development potential.
But yet that's not in the open space.
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
It was very confusing.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
several different layers of things that are really similar and it's very confusing, but pretty simple overall. So scenic view shed on page 4, that's another standard that would come into applicability if lots 2 or 5 were developed. And again, it talks about wanting to cluster things. So home sites would be closer to Chapman Lane, not in the middle of that yellow area, and then the red is primary foreground.
Which right now is.
That's all floodplain.
Yeah.
Floodplain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which actually brings us right to the next section is chapter 28 floodplain, so. On that map, you can see the various levels of floodplain from the regulatory floodplain. The blue is 1% chance, and then the golden yellow is 0.2% chance of flooding. So our bylaw does not does not allow any new development in the regulatory floodway or the blue area. There are some exemptions available, but in terms of like new houses, new subdivisions, pretty much a no-go in that blue area. And then the yellow area does have that potential. I will note that the bylaw does not require floodplain to be an open space, so even though it's wet, like a wetland buffer or a stream buffer, it is not counted, like you don't have to say everything in the floodplain needs to be an open space. So that is a key distinction here.
So lot 2
Mhm,
falls in the blue,
mhm,
largely, and lot 5 does not. So
Right,
yellow,
yeah.
the
We-
gold.
We had originally kept that as one lot. But then we were told that. Anything that is in the conservation, which is a little stream that goes from Chapman down to the river,
Yeah.
cuts it. So
Mhm.
because of that, we had to have the 2 lots.
Yeah.
Because we were just gonna have one big, we're like, okay, have one big lot.
Yeah,
And they're like, no, you can't. So
yeah, that's a
why
really
there's-
good point. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of
Yeah.
that. So yeah, you can see the stream running up and down. And we're like, is there a way? We were talking with it with Doug. It's like,
Yeah, we just
functionally it would make a lot more sense, but our bylaw requires that that street be.
in the open space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cause.
Yeah. I was mentioning lots 2 and 5 just because I know that those are listed as, right, those are listed as the different lots where you
Mhm.
might want to have a place in the future. So basically the staff report saying lot 2, just be aware of the flood zone.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that brings me right to the very end is the 4 recommendations are basically what standards would come into play on lots 2 and 5. If and when any further subdivision or non-exempt development is proposed. And lastly, number 4 is a special statement about that floodplain, like just because you're creating lot 2 around the barn. Doesn't mean it has a lot of vesting and it might not be eligible for a variance, so it's kind of standard boilerplate information.
Which we're aware of.
You're aware of it. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you.
We're essentially doing this because. Grandma passed away last October. And so the whole farm was one. And so, she lived in the house, but, Mike and Ellen Fontaine, her, because who owned it with his brother who also passed away. And so my daughter would like to buy the house. And in order to get the house, the bank needs land with the house.
And this is threw us into this whole thing.
So
So that's why, yes,
Acres and lawyers. right?
That's, they just wanna get, we just want them to buy the house, so that's what this whole thing is. It's like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that those wheels in motion, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and unfortunately, when it
Yeah.
first came, it's like,
It's like-
yeah, so I wish I could tell you could just draw a 2 acre box around this one
Yeah.
house. It's gonna our open space standards are gonna make it a whole thing.
So the most important thing here today is the canoe access.
Well, it's coming down to, can we,
What does the town wanna do with it? Cause unless, oh, how do I say that? You guys take the lien off the farm.
So,
You have a
Well,
lien.
are they done with
Yeah,
this?
so.
so that's actually, yeah, it's actually a separate question.
Right, I was gonna say.
Alright.
This right here
Yeah, you
is-
guys talk.
The Conservation Commission is just reviewing compliance with,
right,
with the bylaw
right.
subdivision.
Yeah.
That other component of when, canoe access was created, there was an agreement that was related to a loan that was provided to the Fontaine family from the town. So there is a legal agreement that says, that relates to that kind of has to be addressed and dissolved, as well. So that's kind of a side conversation that's going on with the participation from town manager's office and town legal counsel. So, yeah.
Do we think that would play into the DRB's approval of this or something?
No, I'm keeping it, they're totally separate, so like right now, Dave and I are wearing our 386 page bylaw hats. Okay. Which are very heavy.
And constantly changing.
And those conversations about the lien, it's a private agreement between the Fontaines and the select board. And Dave takes off that bylaw hat and puts on, advising the town manager's hat, and I'm kind of staying away from it because I really want to keep my role with the development review board focused on the standards of the bylaw. A similar parallel might be people come in for permits all the time and have private homeowners associations restrictions. So I might say, I can give you a home business permit, but your homeowners association might say that you can't park a job trailer in your driveway. And so it's a similar parallel to that. But we've been, Dave's been working with the town manager on getting that train rolling.
Now, does everybody realize what this loan was for? It
No,
was for conservation. It was for building our manure pit. So we could, follow the rules of spreading manure and not polluting the river. So it was all, that's back when Bert Moffat was manager.
Way back.
And he said, well, why don't just for, well, shits and giggles, he said, we'll put it as a loan, for the canoe access, and then if you ever develop, pay it back.
gotcha.
So, but that's what the loan was for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the required agricultural practices
Yeah.
for the timeline on spreading the.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll leave that in the hands of the
Yeah.
select board and legal counsel. We can say that that's, that conversation is scheduled, so that'll go
It
to
is,
an
okay.
executive session with the select board. The conversations around legal agreements, real estate transaction, that kind of stuff happen in executive session, so it won't be happening in the open public session. But they'll discuss it, in terms of how they want to approach that with recommendations from town legal, so. Hoping to move that forward on,
So we can
on a
move
parallel
these.
track.
Both forward.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was.
So, I'm not seeing, the findings look pretty straightforward. The recommendations, mostly look like they're for awareness of the applicants and, not necessarily require much discussion from us. So I think, this is our sort of opportunity. If there's any further discussion on the proposed subdivisions, we can just move to approve.
I'll move approval of the recommendations as drafted.
Great.
No other questions for me.
Second,
Okay.
Eric and Lynn, are you still with us? I know Lynn may have had to duck out.
I'm
I'm here.
Oh, great, okay.
Okay, great. So we have a motion to vote on approval of the recommendations as written. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Okay, great.
And just a quick refresh, Reed motioned and who seconded?
Laura.
Laura, okay.
That's been a pattern today. you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, you guys get 3
We
points.
got things to get to, I have 9 o'clock.
Okay.
All right,
So
Okay.
what you're saying is it's good to come in late.
Not
saying that.
You could have been deferred, but this was.
It's late and then there's like, oh boy, late.
I'm there.
No, I'm glad we could
Yeah.
get you in. I
Yep.
went to school with Shayna, all the way through
Oh.
Williston, and so it's fun to see you guys come in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in. Well,
thank you.
Good luck. Good luck with your
Yes.
mortgage.
I hope you get your home.
is that
The other ones are
meeting
sold,
adjourned?
so.
Yes, I really hope you get.
Eight
your home.
58, look at that, let it be known
It's
that the
fine,
Conservation
yeah.
Commission can end the meeting early.
We're adjourned.
Thank you all, by the way, for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
squeezing us in, that was all.
So the development review board is still the same.
Yeah, it's still the same.
That's at night.
I know.
and it's not first thing in the morning.
Right, well, I called her, I said, okay, so it's 7 AM, she's like, yeah.
And yeah,
I'm like, yes, don't show up at PM.
that's right, you'll miss the meeting by a lot.
Yeah.
Son catches the bus at 7:10.
Back in the day, there was a commission
Yeah.
member that would always bring in like muffins or something,
Oh,
right?
yes,
Thank
he
you.
did.
You remember scones,
Yeah.
Eric was on the phone bringing some scones.
Eric's been remote.
He's slacking right
All
now.
right, thanks everyone online, we're gonna. end
Thanks, everyone.
this meeting.
Thank you,
Lynn, thank you.
There's a bag.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.